So recently, as in this last weekend, I went on a trip to Cancun, which is about a 4.5-hour flight both ways, because that's how flying works. And if you've been following this page for any amount of time, you'll know that every time I go on a trip, what I do while I'm on that airplane for 9 collective hours is catch up with the entirety of a manga. And while there was a lot of manga I could have caught up with, Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Vinland Saga, Berserk, what I chose to catch up with this time around was Chainsaw Man. And it appears as though I chose a really good time to catch up. See, I've been hearing rumblings about how Chainsaw Man's manga is incredible and sad and twisted for months now. In fact, it's my tattoo artist's favorite manga. But upon catching up with the manga, I realized there's a lot I can talk about in Chainsaw Man. Talking about the Primal Devil, talking about the Control Devil, so many things I can cover. However, one of the most pressing things in the Chainsaw Man manga currently is the fact that there might be 2 Chainsaw Men. Actually, not might. There is 2 Chainsaw Men, and nobody really knows why there's 2 Chainsaw Men. But that doesn't mean there's not theories. There are plenty of theories. But regardless of what these theories theorize, they're all trying to answer the same question. Who is the second Chainsaw Man? And honestly, I think people are looking in the wrong direction. See, while obviously uncovering the truth behind who the second Chainsaw Man is hugely important, I think the identification of the fact that there is now 2 Chainsaw Men has much greater plot implications than simply unmasking the identity of the second Chainsaw Man. I believe that the existence of a second, possibly equally powered Chainsaw Man tells us a lot about Pochita, and how Pochita is now almost definitely guaranteed not to be the Chainsaw Devil. And the evidence of this theory drives us towards my theory that Pochita is actually a primal devil. But before we get into my theory, I want to cover some of the most popular theories as to why there could be 2 Chainsaw Men, and give my 2 cents on what I think about each of these individual theories. Before we get into all that, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you guys love the idea of me talking about Chainsaw Man and a bunch of other anime, you're gonna love my anime podcast, Who Talk is Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So, the Chainsaw Man, the hero of hell, the person that every single demon is afraid of. An entity so powerful it went toe-to-toe with all of the weapons, devils, and the 4 horsemen and still kind of won. An entity so powerful it permanently crippled the War Devil by consuming part of its flesh. And an entity that now resides in Denji. See, the strength of the Chainsaw Man is undeniable. By the way, it feels important to throw this in here, but really not all that important. We are going to be talking about chapter 128. There's going to be a lot of Chainsaw Man spoilers in here, so proceed with caution. Per usual, I'm going to try and keep this video as spoiler-free as possible, but I can only do so much. I mean, you already know there's a second Chainsaw Man. That is literally the point of chapters 111 to chapter 128. Back to the Chainsaw Man. His strength is undeniable. Outside of having nigh limitless regeneration and stamina now, as Denji's heart is basically Pochita, Denji and Pochita have the ability to consume other devils. And upon the consumption of these devils, those devils' names disappear forever, erasing the mere concept of the fear they were based off of. If there was an NC Hammer 23 devil, because for some reason somebody was afraid of me, if Denji or Pochita ate that devil, I would cease to exist. I had to get at least one person. I got a devil now. But just the sheer thought of having only one of these Chainsaw Men devil present is terrifying enough. What happens when a second one shows up? Well, that's what's going on in the manga currently. We now have a mystery Chainsaw Man who's appeared now twice while Denji was nowhere to be found, which has concretely proven to us that there is 2 Chainsaw Men. But who is this second Chainsaw Man? How did they come into existence? And are their powers similar to that of Denji's? Well, we don't have the answers to any of those questions, but we're gonna try. See, the first time we're introduced to this mystery character is in chapter 111 of the manga, when Yuko, Asa's only friend in the entire world, bumps into him. Now, the second time that we see this character is in the most recent chapter of Chainsaw Man, chapter 128, when this character steps in to save both Denji and Asa from the falling devil. Now, while technically in chapter 111, it's just vaguely implied that Denji and this Chainsaw Man aren't the same person, because we see this Chainsaw Man standing over a devil he's killed, and Denji in the next panel is sleeping, but this chapter is all but concretely proven that Denji and this other Chainsaw Man are completely different people, and that this other Chainsaw Man is very powerful, as both Denji Denji and Asa were in some kind of pocket dimension that the Falling Devil had created. See, essentially the Falling Devil's powers operate by controlling your mental state. That is to say that the Falling Devil manipulates you into thinking your worst thoughts. All of the dark thoughts you have in the back of your head you try to keep suppressed with things like SSRIs, alcohol, and sugary food, the Falling Devil brings forward. And once you give in to these sad thoughts, you begin to go upwards. And the sadder you are, the higher you float. Now, Asa chooses a really, and I mean really bad time to tell Denji he's never gonna have sex with anyone. And because of this, Denji begins to fly higher than anybody else. People with suicidal thoughts, people who have lost their entire families to the gun devil, all lower than Denji, who's afraid he may never get to smash. But considering the fact that that is the only thing keeping part 2 Denji alive, it's kind of fair. However, after they've reached the apex of how high they're gonna climb, they begin to fall, but they don't hit the ground. They fall into some doors, some pocket dimension, into a dark spot where the Falling Devil is creating a dish for the devils in hell. Now, since the symbology of doors is heavily tied to hell in the Chainsaw Man universe, we can assume that this is some sub-pocket of hell that the Falling Devil controls. Because one of the ways out of hell outside of dying is going through the myriad of doors that are on top of hell. Now, the reason I'm talking about this little sub-pocket dimension that the Falling Devil created is because somehow this other Chainsaw Man ends up there. See, Denji is sprinting back for the door that he fell through. At least that's where we think he's running to. However, he's blocked by the Falling Devil. And when things look particularly rough for Denji and Asa, the other Chainsaw Man steps in from behind the Falling Devil and chops her up. It's at this point that he reveals that the Falling Devil and everybody else are gonna keep trying to eat Asa, and that Denji has to evade all of these devils until sunrise. Now, this is most likely to do with the fact that there is a doomsday clock kind of ticking right now in the Chainsaw Man universe. And the onslaught of that doomsday most likely has to do something with Asa's powers. But as it currently stands, we just don't know. But what we do know is that this other Chainsaw Man was not only able to cut up a primal devil in the Falling Devil, but also was somehow able to make it to this pocket dimension created by the Falling Devil, which speaks to the power of this other Chainsaw Man, who for all intents and purposes has shown us he at least has abilities comparable to that of Denji. But who is he or she? I guess it could also be a chainsaw woman. Well, one theory states that this chainsaw person is actually the Justice Devil. Now, this is one of the more popular theories revolving around this chainsaw person's identity. And this is mostly to do with the fact that the Justice Devil has played a massive role in part 2 of Chainsaw Man. See, the first time that we see the Justice Devil in part 2 of Chainsaw Man is the very beginning. It's revealed to us that the Justice Devil has been making contracts with the students of the 4th East High School, which is the high school that Asa goes to. And the Justice Devil eventually makes a contract with one of Asa's only friends, Yuko. And with the power of this contract, Yuko is trying to kill all of Asa's bullies. However, this obsession with ending bullying kind of pushes Yuko over the mental edge. And at a certain point, while trying to kill all of Asa's bullies in one fell swoop, Yuko decides anybody who fights against her is bullying her and therefore should die. Now, this version of Yuko was eventually cut down. But as this version of Yuko is about to die, a mysterious figure shows up and asks Asa if she wants her to save her life. To which Asa says yes, save their life, bring them back. And it's at this point that this mysterious character who's been lurking in the background of all of part 2 brings Yuko back to life. However, this version of Yuko is just a bigger, more malformed version of the version she was prior with the contracts to the Justice Devil. And this version of Yuko simply wants to destroy the entirety of the high school. However, this version of Yuko is eventually cut down by Denji. But Yuko's not actually gone. And the reason that I'm talking about all of this is because it's important to the theories I'm going to be building up later. Yuko appears back in front of Asa, I think the next chapter or the chapter after. And Yuko has assumed this kind of humanoid figure with skirt-like tentacles and tentacles that come down from her face. However, this version of Yuko has a hard time suppressing her murderous urges. And she realizes that she shouldn't be anywhere near Asa in case she does something stupid. So this version of Yuko decides to set out and try and find a cure for this version of herself. And as she sets out on this adventure, we meet this second Chainsaw Man for the first time ever, because this different Chainsaw Man cuts down Yuko. And the only reason I'm telling you that, because it is slightly a spoiler for those of you who aren't caught up with the manga, is because it's very important for the most popular theory here. But see, the person that was able to bring Yuko back to life is actually Fami, aka the Famine Devil, one of the 4 horsemen. Now, we don't exactly know how Fami's abilities work. We don't know why Fami was able to bring Yuko back to life in this malformed giant form. But it is largely believed that Yuko actually went from a human to a devil when Fami used her abilities on her, which would mean this huge, gigantic, evil form of Yuko is actually its own separate devil. And that's important for a couple of reasons. This final form of Yuko that we see, the humanoid version with the tentacle head and the tentacle skirts, could be one of two things. One, it could be Yuko being turned into her own unique and individual devil. And if that is the case, then this version of Chainsaw Man cutting her down makes sense, at least according to the theory that we're about to dive into. However, there's also the possibility that this version of Yuko is a fiend specifically of the Justice Devil. Now, this theory makes sense, but also doesn't make sense. See, the appearance of Yuko in this humanoid form is incredibly fiend-like. Every fiend we've ever seen has a humanoid shape. A couple of things about them are weird, but the most specific thing about a fiend is a unique head. Power had horns, Beam had a shark head. All fiends have unique heads that pertain to the devil that they're being controlled by. And Yuko fits this description to a T, as her head is covered in the tendrils that she manifested through her contract with the Justice Devil. Now, the reason that this theory doesn't make sense is because the Justice Devil only had a contract with her. It's not like the Justice Devil was actually there. Therefore, being cut down by the likes of Asa and Denji probably wouldn't affect the Justice Devil, especially when we consider the fact that this isn't the first time we've seen somebody contracted with the Justice Devil get cut down. However, it's a possibility that Fami has the ability to bind the devil that you have a contract with to your physical body. AKA, Fami has the ability to fuse flesh from a devil you've been contracted to your actual body and make you a fiend, which would explain how Yoku's able to get back up from being cut down the first time in the battle in 4th East High. It would also explain her second form, the really big form that tried to destroy the entire school, because we know that fiends, all but temporarily, are able to tap into the power of their original devil. We've seen Power do it, we've seen Beam do it, we've seen basically every fiend do it. However, if hypothetically Yuko is the fiend of the Justice Devil, this second Chainsaw Man cutting down Yuko makes no sense. That's because this theory states that this second Chainsaw Man is the Justice Devil. See, since we understand that the Justice Devil has been particularly present in part 2 of Chainsaw Man, people are theorizing that this second Chainsaw Man is the Justice Devil, and that the Justice Devil has taken shape in the form of Denji. Now, why would the Justice Devil take the shape of Denji? Why would the Justice Devil look like the Chainsaw Man? Well, because in part 2 of Chainsaw Man, Denji is kind of like a superhero. His exploits are blasted all across the country as the insane chainsaw-wielding devil that's helping people everywhere. He's like if Superman only saved women and used his X-ray powers for all the wrong reasons. But because Denji has basically become the symbol for justice and peace, people are theorizing that the Justice Devil now takes on the appearance of Denji, which is why it's very important to ascertain whether or not Yoku is a fiend of the Justice Devil or just her own unique devil. Because if hypothetically this theory is correct, or you're gonna believe this theory, then Yoku's status as her own devil or as a fiend is very important. If Yoku was a fiend and her appearance definitely did look fiend-like, well then this version of Chainsaw Man wouldn't exist. And not only would this version of Chainsaw Man not exist, it certainly wouldn't kill itself. However, if you do believe this theory, Yoku being her own individual devil actually makes a lot of sense. So we understand that Yoku made a contract with the Justice Devil. However, Yoku did kind of bastardize what the Justice Devil stood for. I mean, we're giving morals to a devil here we've actually technically never met, but Yoku in her second form just decided to destroy an entire school for the sake of justice, when the original reason she made the contract with the Justice Devil was to kill a couple of people who bullied Asa, hoping that by exposing how terrible these bullies are and killing them, that the rest of Japan would be too afraid to bully anyone. And the separation between her original goal, the reason the Justice Devil made a contract with her, and her end goal had such a disparity that the Justice Devil decided she shouldn't be around anymore. And therefore, the Justice Devil took justice into his own chainsaws and killed her. But there's too many ifs in this theory for me to believe it. Listen, I like this theory. It's okay. It makes sense, and that's basically one of the biggest green flags you can give to a theory, but something about it just isn't fun enough or crazy enough for me to believe it. I mean, this is Chainsaw Man we're talking about. Think about Chainsaw Man. Nothing about it really ever makes sense. Denji kidnapped a woman and made her do Dance Dance Revolution. This manga is insane, and there are definitely more insane theories than this. But one of the more rational ones is that we've already seen that Fami has the ability to give people powers. Fami was either able to make Yoku into a fiend or simply turn her into her own devil. She was able to reconstruct an entire decimated body body into a body of a new devil, or devil adjacent, and this devil was strong. On top of this, we've seen that Fami has the ability to control devil's powers, as Fami had the ability to separate Asa and Yoru for a little bit. So if Fami has the ability to heal people or change their bodies or control their powers, there's also the possibility that Fami simply created this new Chainsaw Man. She could have found somebody who we don't know and given them the powers of the Chainsaw Man. And considering what we've seen from her, that's not a crazy theory at all. As it currently stands, we don't know Fami's motivations at all. What we do know about Fami is that she's in the Devil Hunters Club of 4th East High, and the president of this club has a surgical implant of Denji's ripcord, but he's also just a big fan of Chainsaw Man. The whole Fami did it thing to me just doesn't make a whole lot of sense though, because we understand that Fami is more likely than not helping the other devils to kill Asa and Denji. So the idea that she would make a second Chainsaw Man that would want to help Denji kind of eludes me. Another theory I can't get fully on board with is the fact that this second Chainsaw Man is also Denji. Kind of. See, we saw in chapter 96 that Denji was able to pull out his own heart, which is Pochita, and throw it. And Denji, upon ripping his own heart out of his chest and throwing it back to Earth, had his body regenerate around that heart. And this regenerated version of Denji went on to continue fighting. However, the half of Denji that ripped out its own heart also didn't die, which meant for a good amount of time there was two Denjis, the Denji who had Denji's heart and the Denji who didn't have a heart, which led a lot of people to the relatively logical assumption that Denji can create clones of himself. Denji can throw Pochita, have Pochita grow another body, and that new body that just had Pochita ripped out of him can continue to fight. However, that's not really the case. See, well, obviously in this one specific circumstance, there was two Denjis who were both operating, one with a heart and one without. But the only reason that one of the Denjis could continue to operate is because he had a contract with a particularly powerful devil that was keeping him alive. And this devil had given him the entirety of itself to allow him to control his body without a heart. Well, that wasn't the express purpose of the contract, but this contract with that powerful devil is what allowed this version of Denji to continue living without a heart. However, Denji continuing this battle and using the entirety of this devil to maintain a body with no heart used up all of the devil that the devil had given to Denji throughout this contract. Meaning that while yes, absolutely, there was a point in time when Denji could have two bodies simultaneously, that ability is now gone, as Denji basically used the entirety of that contract in the final battle of part 1, which means that Denji now needs Pochita to live. So whichever version of the current Chainsaw Man didn't have Pochita would die. Now that is, of course, unless this heartless version of Denji made more contracts with more devils that allowed this heartless version of Denji to stay alive, which is kind of a possibility. However, this other Chainsaw Man doesn't talk like Denji. He says things like, "Please evade them until sunrise, Chainsaw Man." Well, Denji just kind of screams about how much he wants to get laid. So for me to believe that both of these people are Denji when they don't operate the same and there's really no parameters in which Denji could operate without a heart is a lot. So what do I believe? Well, this is gonna sound stupid, and you gotta remember this is a dumb manga objectively, but I think this other Chainsaw Man is the Chainsaw Devil. Now I can hear you yelling behind your screens,
Nick, Pochita is the Chainsaw Devil, you dunce.
no, he's not. Pochita has never been and will never be the Chainsaw Devil. The way the power system in Chainsaw Man works is that the more afraid people and devils are of a certain concept, the stronger the devil created. Chainsaws have only existed for 200 or so years in the Chainsaw Man universe. I mean, it takes place in the 90s. I guess chainsaws have only really existed for 200 or so years in our universe. And while chainsaws are scary, I mean, we got Leatherface and loggers dying and chainsaw related incidents. There is no reason that the Chainsaw Man devil should be stronger than things like the nuclear bomb devil, the darkness devil, the control devil, the war, famine, katana, gun devil. The Chainsaw Devil shouldn't be able to hold a candle to any of those devils. And yet Chainsaw Man is referred to as the hero of hell, the person who's able to battle with the 4 horsemen and the primal devils. And that makes no sense.
Okay, Nick, then why does Pochita have chainsaws? Aren't devils supposed to manifest abilities similar to the themes that they're based off of?
Absolutely. The Katana Devil manifests katana. The Crossbow Devil manifests crossbows. The Chainsaw Devil should manifest chainsaws. But that's not Pochita's only ability. See, Pochita's true ability, I would say Pochita's strongest ability, is consumption, devil erasure. If Pochita or Chainsaw Man consumes a devil, they, as a concept, disappear. And when this ability was first revealed, people theorized that Pochita isn't the Chainsaw Devil and is instead something like the Forgotten Devil, symbolizing the fear of being forgotten, which is fine, it makes a little bit of sense. But I theorized back when this news originally came out that Pochita was instead the consumption devil. See, we're well aware of the fact that primal devils are the strongest devils in the Chainsaw Man universe. And currently, as it stands, we're only aware of 2 primal devils, and one of them is very new. Those would be the Darkness Devil and the Falling Devil. Now, the reason these primal devils are called primal devils is because they represent primal fears, things that every single human is born with the fear of. And you know what every single human was born with the fear of until the era of the modern day was being eaten. And that's just in our universe. We've obviously eliminated the fear of being consumed in our regular universe because we've worked our way out of the food chain. But imagine, hypothetically, you exist in a universe where 70% of the deaths are devil related. Imagine we existed in a universe where you had a 7 out of 10 chance of being consumed like a meal for a devil. See, those in the Chainsaw Man universe have not made their way out of the food chain. And therefore, one of the biggest fears in the Chainsaw Man universe, arguably the biggest fear in the Chainsaw Man universe, is being eaten. And it's been that way for as long as humans or animals have existed. So long as there's predators, the prey fear. But what if I told you that the fear of being consumed doesn't only apply to humans in this circumstance? Because even devils themselves haven't worked their way out of the food chain. Stronger devils eat weaker devils because the blood of weaker devils strengthens stronger devils. Tie this into the fact that those who know about Pochita's powers are terrified of Pochita because they know it's the only way a devil can truly die. And now, not only are weak devils and humans afraid of Pochita, but the strongest amongst the devils are afraid of Pochita, which means that every single being, be they animal, human, or devil, is afraid of Pochita or Pochita's theme: consumption, meaning that Pochita is the only universally feared concept in the entirety of Chainsaw Man. So, who is this other devil? Well, I really think it could be split into 2 separate lines of logic. One, it could be the Chainsaw Devil, or it could be the Chainsaw Man devil. Stick with me, it'll make sense in a second. So if you want to go with the logic that this is the Chainsaw Devil, it does have a couple of issues, because Pochita has chainsaws, and for Pochita to get chainsaws while not being the Chainsaw Devil would mean that at some point Pochita would probably have to eat the Chainsaw Devil. As we know that when devils eat other devils, they're able to assimilate their power, which means somewhere down the line, Pochita ate the Chainsaw Devil and assimilated the Chainsaw Devil's powers. My counter argument to this point, to make the theory seem more valid, is that we've seen other devils manifest weapons that have nothing to do with what they're named after. A good example of this would be the Angel Devil and his ability to manifest weapons created out of the amount of years he's currently holding on to. This really has nothing to do with angels. The War Devil is able to make weapons out of anything that it owns. Well, obviously you need weapons for war. She's not the weapons devil. So to assume that the consumption devil would be able to manifest a tool that would make it easy to cut up its meals like chainsaws isn't crazy, which means hypothetically this could be the actual Chainsaw Devil, who is actually getting more powerful through the existence of Denji as the Chainsaw Man, as both devils and people who are negatively affected by the actions of Denji are now becoming more afraid of chainsaws. And as more fear is being garnered towards the concept of chainsaws, this would strengthen the actual Chainsaw Devil, who, since so many people relate him to the image of Denji, would most likely take the appearance of Denji. And that theory is just crazy enough and makes just enough sense that I believe it works perfectly. But if you want to take it literally one step further into the crazy train, it could also just be the Chainsaw Man Devil. This is gonna sound stupid, and that's because it kind of is. See, one of the biggest changes between part 1 and part 2 of Chainsaw Man is that Denji as Chainsaw Man is famous in part 2. There is merch sold of him. Every piece of news covers him. Anytime he kills a demon, it is very public. But the thing is, Denji's persona is incredibly polarized. Some people love him, some people hate him. Some people believe that he's humanity's hero, and he's the only person that can save them from all of these devils, while others realize that he doesn't save women, and sometimes will save a cat before he saves humans. On top of this, anytime he shows up, basically everything is destroyed. And while there are a fair amount of people out there who love him, there are also a fair amount of people out there who hate him, most devils included. And since the concept of him is now so public, and there's a good amount of people and devils who fear him, there's a lot of fear swirling around the concept of Chainsaw Man. And if a katana or a chainsaw, which are human creations that came into be at certain points, can garner devils of their own, even though there's people out there who love chainsaws and katanas like me, why wouldn't a public figure as polarizing as Chainsaw Man have the ability to create his own devil? And obviously a Chainsaw Man devil would look like Chainsaw Man and would more likely than not want to assist Denji. As we know, the more humanoid devils are usually friendly to humans. And while obviously this devil has chainsaws coming out of his hands and a chainsaw head, having a change to his head is basically all of the differences between Angel and humans. An Angel is friendly to humans. So is the concept of Denji's popularity being so polarizing that it created an actual devil garnered from the fear of people realizing that he only saves women, cats, and sometimes destroys entire buildings in battles with devils? That crazy? Yes, it is that crazy. But remember, this is Chainsaw Man. But what do you guys think? Who do you think is the second Chainsaw Man? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And manga reviews are so much fun.